Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sydney and I started Solely Healing purposely to help others heal and find out what their root cause is with their health symptoms. So I got a lot of questions about what were my symptoms, how did I know it was mold. So I thought today I'd go over what my symptoms were and go a little in depth about my symptoms. Okay, so of course, like I had to sit down and write out completely what all my symptoms were because I've noticed since getting better and taking leaps, I've forgotten that I had a certain symptom, which is amazing. But yeah, so I have them listed in front of me. So if you see me looking down, I'm going back to that as I had over 60 to 70 different symptoms, and it's easy to forget when you come a long way for sure. So I will start going, I guess, like what were some of the first symptoms I noticed. So I started getting sick after I moved into my apartment within 2 months of living there. I also, like, my first symptoms were I was getting sick a lot, lots of head colds, allergies, a gnarly cough. And so I just didn't think anything of it. But then one morning I woke up after like 2 to 3 months of living there, and it seemed like 30 different symptoms piled on to me at once. And so I will say one of my first symptoms that was severe enough for me to think what is going on was my vision. So a lot of people will be like, oh, was it just vision loss? So actually, like, I had no clue how to explain it because I already have contacts, I have glasses. Um, it wasn't like just normal, oh, I need to go to the eye doctor. I had no clue how to explain it. So of course I did go to the eye doctor. I went to the eye doctor literally like 4 times, and every single time he was like, nope, everything looks great, your eyes haven't changed. When I'm like, what? How? So how I can describe it was my depth perception was off. I developed a nystagmus, so I was not able to move my eyes left to right fluidly. Sadly, that one's still sticking around. It's gotten a lot better, but I'm still working on it. So I had to constantly kind of turn my body to be able to scan and drive. So it was depth perception, nystagmus, my vision was blurry, had tons of black dots in my eyes, and then I also developed derealization. So everything I was looking at looked fake almost, which it's hard to describe, but kind of looks like you're living in a cartoon. So the only way I could describe it was I felt drunk and high all the time, which of course, like, I never did that a lot, but it was one of the worst feelings ever. And so I didn't know how to describe it to anyone, but that was one of my first symptoms. And then I'm gonna get into some of my other symptoms. Something else I noticed was I started developing vertigo. So I was dizzy all the time. I was running into walls. My hand and eye coordination was off. So I was constantly dropping things, running into walls. Literally felt like I was on a boat all the time. Anywhere I was, even when I was sitting, I would catch myself. My mom started to notice it. I would always do this. Or when I was driving, I would somehow hold my head up because it always felt like if I wasn't holding it straight, like I was like literally on a boat. Even though my body wasn't doing it, it felt like that. So yeah, that symptom was very scary. And that's one of my other symptoms that will probably be one of the last to go, as doctors say. When the mold starts affecting your brain neurologically and it's inflaming your brain and there's mold in your brain, those major symptoms are going to be one of the last ones to go. Another symptom was I gained 40 pounds. I ate great. I worked out to the ability I could. I literally felt like passing out every time after I worked out. But I gained 40 pounds overnight. I blew up like a balloon. My face was so swollen. I had trouble breathing. So I had that chronic cough and I got sick a lot, but this was more like I couldn't take a deep breath. And in the mold world, what they call it is called air hunger. Literally felt like kind of was like suffocating because my chest hurt, couldn't get a deep breath, and towards the end of living there, I almost would catch myself holding my breath. And I learned later on, when you're living in mold, that's your body's fight mechanism, is to hold your breath because it knows you're breathing in something harmful. Another thing I had was pressure/ice pick headaches. So this felt like someone was taking a knife, essentially, and stabbing it into my head in all different spots. And then it also felt like someone was literally standing on top of me and pressing down super, super hard on my head. So yeah, that happened all the time. Ice pick and pressure headaches. It wasn't like a normal headache or migraine. Sadly, I feel like a lot of people who deal with mold think these ice pick/pressure headaches are just migraines, when in reality they're not. They're from mold. Another weird one was I had metallic mouth. So it felt literally like I was sucking on coins and metal all day long. And that is a mold symptom. So sometimes I notice now when I walk into mold right away that I am literally, my mouth fills with metallic. It's one of the most bizarre things. I also had hallucinations. So it got so bad I started seeing things and hearing things. I'd be driving with someone and I'd be like, did you see that? No. And I knew then like something weird was going on. I would hear things. It felt like when I was sleeping, whispering in my ear. So many bizarre things were going on. I didn't even know how to explain it. Another one was my hair was falling out so much. Clumps, it thinned. It is so much better now. But when I was living in mold, it was very thin. It lost all its curl and it was coming out in clumps in the shower. I had awful anxiety. I get a little emotional with this one because that was another one of my first symptoms, and I went to a psychiatrist, of course. He put me on a new anxiety medication, and I didn't sleep for a whole week, had tremors, had to go to the ER, so that's a whole other thing. Now I know what it's from, but I had constant anxiety for no reason when I was living in mold. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with panic attacks. I didn't want to leave my house. It was just all around one of the worst things ever. Another one that surprises people is anger. I was so angry for no reason. I'd snap at people so easily. I just had so much built up anger. Everything would make me mad. And it was weird because it was like I was watching myself from afar when it would happen. And after I was like, why did that happen? Like, why did I just get so angry at that person? And that is a huge symptom of mold. So if you're living with someone, they have other symptoms and they also have really built up anger, look into mold. Heart palpitations. So another awful symptom. If you know what heart palpitations are, it just feels like your heart's like, and you can't get a deep breath, and yeah. So whenever I go somewhere and I start getting heart palps right away, I know I'm in mold. I have a couple different signs when I walk into somewhere and know the place is not safe, that my body lets me know. And I've gotten good over it over the years because this has been about since 2018 it happened. So I've gotten very good at learning the symptoms and signs, which is amazing. And then something else that I've made on my TikTok videos was frequent urination. I was peeing a ton, but the most bizarre thing is it wasn't until night when it got really bad, which I found out later for some reason mold does it at night. So I would try and go to sleep at night, and I swear I would go probably 15 times before I could actually fall asleep. It felt like my bladder was never empty. And the reason that actually happens is because mycotoxins and mold love the kidneys and bladder. And so they inflame that, and then it's constantly, I mean, when I think about it, our body is so amazing. What it actually is trying to do is it knows the mold and mycotoxins are not good for our body. So what happens is our bladder and kidneys are constantly wanting to empty to get that out of our body. So that was a huge symptom. It was awful. And I know a lot of kids wet their beds at night, and even adults, and it's not normal. I know as a kid I didn't deal with mold, but I got a chiropractor adjustment and that went right away, or it went away. So, but mold is a huge symptom of that as well. Okay, next was, I talked about nystagmus, sensitivity to light and sounds. I am way better at it now, but I will catch myself wearing sunglasses more often. Light overwhelmed me, sounds overwhelm me, and people overwhelm me. I used to be able to, I was an extrovert. I constantly was going out into big crowds, didn't care, didn't have problems with it. I noticed myself, grocery stores overwhelmed me, just going out in public overwhelmed me, sounds overwhelmed me, if a ton of stuff was going on at once, kind of like sensory issues. Mold, I developed with mold, and usually the cause of that is your brain is so inflamed that it can't handle all that. And then another symptom was fatigue. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, were you tired?" I mean, this was another level of tired. I would sleep 10 to 12 hours a night, wake up exhausted, and it also felt like 1,000 pounds were sitting on me. Um, I mean, just walking to the kitchen exhausted me, and I don't know how, but I pushed through a part-time job for about a year when I was living in mold. But when I tell you I thought I was going to pass out all the time when I was working there, yeah, I don't know how I made it. I couldn't see, couldn't function. I messed up all the time. Um, and that's not who I was. So it was just awful. Night sweats. So I noticed this right away after I got out of mold. But when you're living in mold, waking up drenched in the middle of the night, or when you're in the morning, you wake up drenched, that was a sign of mold for me. It's very common, but what's happening is your body is trying to constantly, another mechanism of the body trying to heal itself, trying to sweat out all that mold that you're absorbing. Acne. I had extreme cystic acne. If you follow my TikTok, I've posted videos of it before. It was very bad, and like I said, I ate healthy. I barely drank. Well, I didn't drink. When I started getting sick, I stopped drinking because obviously that wasn't going to help it. But yeah, extreme acne. Another thing that was very scary was when I lived in mold, I would wake up and my throat would swell. So it literally felt like someone was choking me. There was nights I would wake up in the middle of the night calling my mom bawling, and I would drive across town to her house because I seriously thought I was going to die. I dealt with the symptom for a while after. It's way better now. I still notice, which was another symptom, is lymph swelling. So I'm still trying to flush out my lymph because the mold settled in all my lymph, which caused swelling in my lymph, like on the outside, in other places as well. But yes, it felt like I was being strangled when I was living in mold, and like someone was choking me 24/7. And like I said, there's many nights I went to sleep thinking I'm not going to wake up. I'm going to suffocate and die. And it was the most scariest thing ever, but now I know, what it was. I could go on and on. I had 60 to 70 symptoms, like I said. I'm just going to cover a couple more. So I also had extreme memory loss and cognitive impairment. I couldn't remember things longer than 2 seconds. If you told me something 1 minute ago, I probably forgot it. Couldn't remember anything. So I started messing up my sentences and words. I literally would try and say something and it would come out completely wrong and made no sense. And it was very scary. I would stare at the person and be like, what just happened? I mean, my brain was shutting off. It was like I had Alzheimer's and dementia, and I could go into that in another video, but a lot of doctors have seen mold and Lyme being the cause of Alzheimer's and dementia. Now I know why, because I was going through it firsthand myself. So as in the fatigue, like the weakness. So my legs felt super heavy. It felt like my legs were going to give out all the time. I also had numbness and tingling, so kind of felt like I was having a stroke. My face would go numb. I would have numbness and tingling down my arms. And then another weird thing I noticed was I was having electrical shocks all the time. And when you look up symptoms of mold and Shoemaker's guide to all that, sensitivity to electrical shocks is very common, and it's bizarre, but I would get shocked all the time, and I would shock people all the time. And I don't know the scientific reasoning for that, but it's very true. Excessive thirst. Being thirsty constantly. Mouth was always dry. That was a big symptom. Abdominal pain. I had abdominal pain all the time and extreme bloating. And overall, just like mood swings. Like I said, the anger, and then the depression. The depression was awful, but of course, when you're in it and dealing with all these symptoms, you are going to be depressed. So mold can cause depression, but of course, like if you're going through that, you're going to be depressed. And then another thing was I had full body tremors. My body would literally tremor, and I was, like this, but I would have sometimes like my whole body, you could see it like tremoring. And then another thing that was awful and I still am dealing with is internal vibrations. So it literally felt like I am sitting on something that's buzzing or vibrating, but you can't tell on the outside, but it's happening on the inside. So it's, very scary. So I could honestly go on and on and on about other symptoms, but those are some of my main symptoms. And of course, like I say, I was like a list of 40, but I wanted to try and tell you guys as much as I could about how many symptoms I had. I know I'm forgetting probably 20 of them, as a lot of them have left, thankfully. So I know I'm forgetting some, but if you have a question or any comments, please comment below. Please share this with someone that's sick and doesn't know if they have mold toxicity or not. And a lot of people aren't even aware how sick mold can make you. So I would love if you guys can share this and like it, subscribe, and comment if you want to know other things or what you would like my next video to be about. And if you don't follow my TikTok, and my Instagram, I will link them down below. I post a lot on there. I'm just getting started on YouTube. But I want to get out as much information as I can, because sadly a lot of people and Western doctors will look at you and call you crazy and not help you. And so I've been there firsthand, and so has my mom and sister, and so I want to help as many people as I can out possibly. So I'd be very grateful if you subscribed and shared my video, and let me know how you guys liked it. Thank you.